So the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is here. This is what we know about it. So it's following on the same naming as the previous year's Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. It's got the Cryo CPU. What's the CPU setup? This is the key question. Well, here it is. It's one Cortex X4. I've got videos about the X4 here on this channel. Five Cortex A720s. We'll dive more into what that means in a minute, because some of them are clocked at 3 gigahertz, some of them are clocked at 3.2 gigahertz, and then two Cortex A520s clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. So this is a 1 plus 5 plus 2 configuration, 1 plus 5 plus 2. So a couple of interesting things about this. First of all, you've got that really heavy middle section there, 5 of them, which is really interesting, and also only 2 efficiency cores. So Qualcomm opting to say, well, actually, we reckon we can make the A720 sufficiently efficient that we don't need to have too many Cortex A520 cores. Now, this is in difference to, for example, Apple's latest iPhone chip, which has still got 2 performance cores and 4 power efficiency cores. Here we've gone with 1 plus 5 plus 2 setup. So there you go. So what does that mean? You've got 3.3 gigahertz for the Cortex X4. That's the maximum CPU there. You've got 3 of them are clocked. These middle cores are clocked at 3.2 gigahertz. And then you've got 2 of them clocked at 3 gigahertz. Just that 200 megahertz difference there is sufficient for the power consumption. They're saying, no, that's all we need. We can now make a power efficient chip for mobile, for smartphones. And then notice these here are clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. Traditionally, the efficiency cores have been clocked kind of like at 1.7, 1.8 gigahertz. Clocking these now at 2.3 gigahertz is very, very interesting. So overall, 30% performance boost. This is compared to the Snapdragon Gen 2, 12 megabytes of L3 cache there. Built using TSMC's second generation 4 nanometer processors, the N4P process, for those of you that like those little technical details. We've also, of course, got the Adreno GPU. Now, Qualcomm over the last few years have not really given much details about the Adreno GPU. They don't even give it a number anymore. We just know it's the Adreno GPU. I've talked to Qualcomm about this. They acknowledge that it's not what I want, what the consumers want, the technical nerds around us want, but that's what they're doing at the moment. They don't say anything about the number of cores it's got, the number of shaders it's got. We don't know any of that. All we know is the Adreno GPU. However, what do we know? 25% faster. That's compared to the previous generation. 25% more power efficiency, and 1 hertz variable rate in the display processor. What does that mean? That means you can have things like when you've got always on screens or when you've got lock screens, it can really lower the refresh rate under 1 hertz, which means it doesn't use nowhere near as much battery, which is very flexible now display options. We also know that it's got 1.5 times better ray tracing than the previous generation. It supports OpenGLES 3.2 and Vulkan 1.3, and there's hardware accelerated decoding for H.265, VP9 and AV1. Now, as I said, that display processor can go down as low as 1 hertz. You can also go up now to 240 frames per second is now possible, up from 144 hertz in the previous generation. And as I mentioned, the DPU now supports variable refresh rates down to 1 hertz for lock screens or always on displays. You've also got support for the Unreal Engine 5 Lumin, state-of-the-art real-time global illumination and reflections. First time this is on Snapdragon. Look at that puddle there with that bit of reflection in there, the light streaming in through here. So what they've got now in Unreal Engine 5 can be taken advantage of in the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Other things to mention, of course, 5G. You've got the X75 modem, which supports millimeter wave and sub-6, standalone, non-standalone, lots of different modes available here. Downlink up to 10 gigabits a second, uplink up to 3.5 gigabits a second, and it supports, for those of you that follow this kind of thing, 3G PP release 17 and 18. That's the specification that defines 4G, 5G, and so on. In terms of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, you've got the Qualcomm FastConnect 7800 system. That means it's got Wi-Fi 7, so it supports all of these different Wi-Fi standards, including BE, AX, AC, and way back to the A, B, G, and N, because it supports 6 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and 2.4 gigahertz. So basically, it supports everything everything, even back to the old days of what used to be like, 11B or whatever. It can cover it all, and Wi-Fi 7. And then of course you've got good Bluetooth support, including Bluetooth LE audio. You've got the aptX codecs and so on, and so lots of great stuff there for audio and for Bluetooth. A couple of other general things to mention. You've got Qualcomm Quick Charge 5 technology, LPDDR5X memory up to 4,800 megahertz, up to 24 gigabytes supported. Will we see a 24 gigabytes phone? That could be quite interesting. USB version 3.1. Take note, Apple. Take note, Apple. Look, this is how you meant to do it. Version 3.1 Gen 2 using Type-C support, UFS 4.0 support, if necessary. Now, there's a whole load of stuff that Qualcomm also announced to do with generative AI features on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. In fact, there's so many, I think it deserves its own video, so do watch out for that. It will be coming out soon. But you can run things like Llama, that's the large language model, locally, so you can run a generative AI kind of in the same way you chat GPT, but on your phone. You've got Qualcomm AI stack models. They give you a whole bunch of models that are available for developers to start using out of the box. Got great features like photo expansion, which we're only just getting used to seeing in things like, Photoshop on the desktop. Now you can do that on your phone, and it does it on the phone locally. You've got stable diffusion again that can run on the phone, and I'll do this in a whole separate video, but really interesting stuff coming now for the AI part of the setup.